Hello, everyone. My name is Crystal Ka'ai Hetherington, and I serve as the Executive Director of the National Asian Pacific American Museum Commission. And I want to welcome you to our Commission's virtual convening and listening session today. We are thrilled to host this session for anyone who's interested in learning more about our Commission's work and the process that we are undergoing to create a future national museum dedicated to Asian Pacific American history and culture. So here's what to expect during today's session. First, you'll hear from our commissioners who will share more about our work to lay the groundwork for congressional authorization of a future museum. Then we'll open the floor to you to share perspectives on shaping this historic initiative. And finally, we'll close by asking for everyone's help to submit a comment if you have not already, and to share this process to submit comments widely with your networks. We are hoping to get thousands of comments showing support for this effort to create a national museum for our community. We also welcome you to follow us and tag us on social media at APA Museum. So we are honored to be joined today by four of our commissioners. All of these individuals were appointed by Congress. And we have with us today Dr. Jay Xu, who is our co-chair of the commission. We also have Chiling Tong, who also co-chairs the commission. We have Joanne Kwong, co-vice chair of the commission, and Kevin D. Kim, who serves as our public engagement committee chair. So I'll now turn the program over to our commissioners to share more about our work, and I'm going to start off with Kevin. So Kevin, we'll toss it to you.
Thank you, Crystal, and thank you to everyone for joining us today from all across the country. It is truly an honor to serve alongside such distinguished colleagues for the past 15 months on this congressionally appointed bipartisan commission. As our nation celebrates our 250th anniversary, we have been invited to reflect on the stories that make up America's collective identity. Not just the well-known chapters, but also the voices and experiences that have too often been overlooked. The Asian Pacific American journey is one of courage, perseverance, and hope. It is a history of people who crossed oceans in search of opportunity, who helped build communities, infrastructure, and industries, and who served and sacrificed for this country, like the members of the 442nd Infantry Regiment, one of America's most decorated military units ever. From the earliest arrivals to native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander communities, whose histories long predate the founding of our great nation, these legacies are woven into the fabric of America itself. And yet, many of these perspectives remain so unfamiliar to most of our fellow Americans. That is why the work of this commission and today's listening session is so important. We have an unprecedented and rare opportunity to listen, to learn, and to help ensure that the contributions of Asian Pacific Americans are recognized for what they are. Not a footnote to the American story, but part of its very foundation. So before we begin today's listening session, we would like to share a brief overview of the Commission's work. And it is now my pleasure to turn it over to Commission Co-Chair Chiling Tong. Chiling?
Thank you, Kevin. Good afternoon. I have seen many friends from my full-time job as the president of a national ACE and also my community work. Thank you so much for joining us. So if you look at our slide, on June 13, 2022, President Biden signed a bill authorized by Congresswoman Meng, and she's going to join us later, to create a bipartisan, congressionally appointed commission to evaluate the feasibility, structure, and the funding strategy for establishing a national museum dedicated to honoring the achievements, progress, and lasting impact of Asian Pacific Americans. So if you look at our commissioner, we have an 8-person commission, was appointed by congressional leadership, including the Speaker and the Minority Leader of the U.S. House of Representatives, and the Majority and the Minority Leaders of the U.S. Senate. And a full list of our commissioners is included in the slide. And also, we want to extend our gratitude to former commissioners from their service including the Honorable Van Spaan. He could no longer serve as a commissioner because he was elected as a member of Congress in Central Valley, California. And also the Honorable Michelle Steele, she can no longer to serve because she just swore in as a U.S. ambassador to South Korea. And Dr. Masoom Momoya. And the next one, we held our inaugural commission meeting in the U.S. Capitol in April 2025 and public launch on June 12th of last year, when we were sworn in by Secretary Elaine L. Chao and the House Democrat Caucus Vice Chair Ted Lieu at the Library of Congress. And next, please. Our swearing ceremony included strong bipartisan congressional support, including remarks from House Speaker Mike Johnson and House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries, as well as a bipartisan participation from former cabinet members and senior government officials spanning several presidential administrations. So this is very bipartisan. We just work so closely with each other. And when we visited different communities, people told me, Chilling, this is the project that can unify our community. And also, as Crystal mentioned, please join us for this historical movement and put your public comments through our website. And now I want to turn to Joanne.
Thank you, Chilling. I'm happy to continue the presentation. My name is Joanne Kwong. I'm one of the 8 commissioners and the co-vice chair. I'm from New York, and my day job is I serve as the president and second generation owner of Pearl River Mart, for any of you in the tri-state area. The commission's core mission is to deliver a comprehensive plan of action to Congress and the president that will lay the groundwork for congressional authorization of a museum dedicated to preserving and honoring the achievements, progress, and lasting impact of Asian Pacific Americans in the United States. Over the past year, since our commission first convened, we are very proud to have built our capacity and staff. We've held several meetings and site visits in Washington, D.C., including with members of Congress and senior Smithsonian officials. And in addition to onboarding full-time staff, we've hired several firms and consultants to help us with our work. These include Smith Group and CCS Fundraising, 2 highly respected industry-leading firms with extensive experience working with the Smithsonian. They will assist us in preparing our final report, which will be delivered to Congress and the president this October. Next slide. From last October to just this past June, we held a national listening tour to connect with community leaders, scholars, and cultural experts around the country. So far, we have gathered hundreds of oral and written public comments on how a potential future museum can best capture the depth, complexity, and richness of the Asian Pacific American experience. We want to continue that momentum and be part of history. And I just want to say it has been such a pleasure to meet so many people across the nation. You can see some of these pictures here. And we've tried to cover in over 20 sessions, regions from Hawaii to the Northeast, the South, the Midwest, and the West as well. It's lovely to see a few folks who we've met in our travels and to see them here on the Zoom. So what we really need, as Chilling mentioned, is to submit comments. And please encourage your family, your friends, and your colleagues to do so as well. We would love to show thousands and thousands of comments as to what our community would like to see in a National Asian Pacific American Museum. Finally, for me, this year, the Commission has been conducting additional research for our feasibility study, and we completed our national listening tour, as I mentioned. These are the 20 locations. Lots of happy faces, lots of great comments. So thank you so much. All of this will be put together, and we will deliver this final report to Congress and the President. Now I'm delighted to turn the mic over to our commission co-chair, Dr. Jay Hsu.
Hello, everyone. Wonderful to see all of you. Greetings from San Francisco, where I am based. I was formerly the executive director of the Asian Art Museum in San Francisco, and I retired last year after serving on the job for 20 years. Overall, I have enjoyed a career of museums over 40 years. I worked in both coasts, the East Coast, West Coast, as well as in the Midwest. And beside that, yeah, I'm honored to serve as a member, as a fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, which is our nation's oldest honor society, founded in 1780 during the American Revolution by founding fathers like John Adams and his cohorts. So it is a tremendous honor to meet with all of you and discuss the future National Museum. And at the moment of when we celebrate 250th anniversary of the founding of the nation. And report, as already mentioned by my fellow commissioners, have several very important ingredients. The report must evaluate a number of criteria outlined in the legislation that created our commission. I'm not going to read every single bullet. I hope you will see it on the screen. For the sake of time, I'm not going to read it. But the commission is tasked with addressing items like the potential structure, location, governance, and the funding strategy for a national museum. And one of the key questions the commission is tasked with answering is whether a future national museum should be part of the globally renowned Smithsonian institutions. All of us know when you go to Washington, D.C., get to the National Mall, you see wonderful museums. They form the Smithsonian Institution, which is the largest museum, education, and research complex in the world. If the answer is yes, and I think we have heard from a lot of communities, yes, we should be part of the Smithsonian Institution. And then the process to become a Smithsonian Museum requires a number of steps. And the first necessary step is the submission of a feasibility study, which we are conducting, detailing whether a museum should even be created at all. Of course, I think the answer I can speak for is a resounding yes. So that is what Congress has tasked us, our commission, with doing. We were giving 18 months or until this October. The October is coming very fast in 3 months, but rest assured, we actually, as a commission, have started officially working in last June. But even before that, we have been unofficially meeting to prepare for work. For all of us, it's a wonderful opportunity to volunteer our time and effort for this great cause. So, but in this October, we'll be able to wrap up our report and to be ready to submit the feasibility study. As you can see from the timeline, where our commission's work is at the very beginning stages of a much longer process that historically has taken over a decade or more to accomplish from start to finish. The Smithsonian Museums for the African American and Native American communities have already been physically constructed on the National Mall in DC. And the Women's History and Latino museums were both authorized by Congress in 2020, although they have not yet been physically built. Once our commission report is submitted this October, Congress will find time in due course determine whether they want to authorize the creation and the construction of a national Asian Pacific American museum where our stories can be told. So thank you for all of your attention and your participation in today's meeting. And I think it will take a village, take the whole nation to build this museum. So we need to mobilize our community and to speak to our elected officials for their support to this great cause. This concludes our presentation. Now we'll turn it back to Crystal.
Thank you, Jay, and thank you to all of our commissioners for sharing that presentation and the update. We will now open it up to Q&A. We really want to make sure that, one, we are getting the word out about this effort. We were given a very short timeline by Congress, 18 months total, to start up our work and also to produce this report to Congress and to the president that is due. And so, as was mentioned during the presentation, because we officially launched in April of last year, we have until October, that 18-month timeline, October of this year to submit our report. So it's a very finite timeline that we have to do this tremendous work. And essentially, we have to convince Congress that this museum should be authorized. So people have asked us, can we go and visit the museum? When can we start donating things? We're not at that phase yet. We are truly at, as Jay showed in that timeline, the very first preliminary necessary step is the submission of this report to Congress and to the president, and all of the other major museums for the African American, Latino, and women's history have gone through this similar process as well in their efforts to become a Smithsonian. So if you can, please drop any questions to us in the chat. Let me see. I see that we have a couple of questions. So Annabelle, I'm just seeing Annabelle's, how can we support this effort to get this passed, the legislation passed? Any commissioners want to take that question?
Sure, I'll jump in. Annabelle, because this is going to be a congressionally authorized piece of legislation, a lot of it has to do with how any law is going to get passed. It's local advocacy and really trying to get members of Congress to understand more about why this is important, and then just getting people that you know personally throughout your network to really just advocate to your local members of Congress to get them to find out more and to vote to pass the legislation.
Thank you, Kevin. Anybody else? I also see Peter Tao has submitted a comment. And so, Peter, we would love if you could also submit this formally on the form online. And your sentiment is actually something that we've heard from others across the country too, especially at this time when I know there are concerns over the continued independence of the Smithsonian Institution. So please, if you have thoughts, if you have comments, suggestions for us, recommendations, I know that we did drop the link to our to submit comments to us online, but we can drop that again. And we really encourage people, even if it's just a 2 or 3 sentence thing, of your recommendations or thoughts, we would really appreciate that. I will say some of our youngest commentators have been in elementary school, so all the way up until, we've had also tenured professors at Ivy Leagues, we've had scholars, we've had museum professionals and directors, and so it's really been a broad mix of folks, and we really value all of the feedback that we're getting. And all of this will help to inform this historic report that we'll be submitting to Congress. Okay, I see we have a few more questions that have come in. Let me see. Wilfredo, how do you determine what events are to be included in this museum? And sorry, I think, is it by history, achievement, or person? So I think you're asking about the content of the museum. And that is something that the commission is actually, as you saw in their presentation, it is one of the things that we're asked to explore, what existing, collections and artifacts, archives exist, what could potentially go into the content of this museum. I might actually call on Jay, since this is really his expertise, and we do have the commission has formed various subcommittees, including one that is really focused on kind of the nitty-gritty pieces of our structure, design of what this future museum may look like. So Jay, I'll toss it to you.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for the questions, Wilfredo. And the one very important work we want to do is to help to recommend and set up a framework to engage communities. I think in order to tell the true, holistic, comprehensive stories from every aspect of AP history, we must engage all stakeholder communities in telling their own stories. Who is better to tell one's own story, right? So I think that is a very important. So we recommend if and when the Congress authorize the museum, a community consultant framework must be immediately established. And I think there are multiple ways to organize stories. One is, of course, themes. There are so many themes that are cutting across every immigrant communities, how you immigrate and how you struggle over livelihood, how you achieve successes, and so on and so forth, and in all different aspects of life. So I think we can explore various types of themes. At the same time, I think very important to create framework of a community engagement so community can be actively participating in shaping the stories they'll be told in the National Museum.
And just to add to that, uh, traveling the country to 20 different cities, we've been able to hear from communities, from people as young as elementary school, just all parts of our community. And we also wanted to engage experts. So we have raised a Scholars Advisory Council, and it's a small working group. So we have representatives who are academics and scholars from all across the country. And they do have experience creating storytelling and figuring out how to shape uh, all of these different communities that fall under the Asia Pacific American umbrella, um, how to tell that story. Because again, just to be realistic, our real estate is not infinite. We have a limited amount of space, but we also have technology. So to create a museum in 2026 to 2035, who knows the time frame, it's the institution will look a little bit different than some museums that have been built, say 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So that's both exciting and also it's challenging, to think about that. But it will really take our community and the best minds in our community figure out the best way to tell that story and then to keep it evolving and growing over time.
Thank you. We have a few more minutes for questions, and then I know that we are expecting Congresswoman Grace Meng, who is the author of this legislation, to also be joining us in a little bit. So as soon as she does, we will hand it over to her. But in the meantime, we'll continue to take a couple of questions. I see that we have from Carolyn. I'm just going in order of like where I'm seeing them. Carolyn Sadeko from New Orleans, and then also asking about what follow-up is there to the listening sessions, and asking if there are localized groups, including in New Orleans. And I will say we did do a listening session there. It was a small one. And we actually do have a commissioner from Louisiana, former Congressman Joseph Angao, was appointed. And I know during the New Orleans session, we had it was a smaller group, but it was a very robust conversation about preserving the history that is unique also to that, to Louisiana, but also to the South, and making sure that those voices are included. But commissioners, any thoughts on how we're continuing to engage or stay in touch with folks after the listening sessions?
Yes, thank you very much, Crystal. I just feel we are so grateful. Through our listening section, we heard a lot of comments, and people have expressed enthusiasm for establishing, this museum is for sure. But a lot of people mention about the location in Washington, D.C., as a part of Smithsonian Institution and on the National Mall. Again, we're going to present a report the end of this year, so your comments mean a lot. If you feel strongly on one or another than another, please just provide your comments. That's the only way we'll be able to hear your voices and we will incorporate into a part of our report. So location is really the key, and we are just open to the comments to everybody. Then you have your voice.
Yeah, I will add, so we don't have any formal like working groups that we're establishing as part of the commission. Our report really is we're required by Congress to submit this report. So for us, it is getting as much input, doing the research. We have been also, the commission has met several times with leaders in Washington, D.C., so both in Congress, those who have jurisdiction over kind of the next steps of this process, but also with the Smithsonian Institution. So we've met with various museums. We've met also with the Smithsonian Asian Pacific American Center. We have met with regional museums. That is also required in our report. So as we've traveled across the country, we've often paired that with tours of existing museums. So we were just in Minnesota, did a tour of the Meng Museum there. Chilling was in a session in Los Angeles. So that was actually hosted at the Japanese American National Museum. So we really try to make sure that as we're traveling to, we're engaging with stakeholders. But as Chilling mentioned, the best way for you to stay in touch with us is to submit comments as soon as, I mean, I see that there are a lot of not just questions in the chat, but also comments, thoughts on where it should be about, based on real estate that exists on the mall or in other places. So please send that information to us via our formal comment period. And that will actually really help us to inform the report. I do see that we actually have Congresswoman Grace Meng with us now. So what I would like to do is turn it over to our Commission Co-Vice Chair, Joanne Kwong, to introduce the Congresswoman.
Oh, hi again, everybody. It is my honor to introduce Representative Grace Meng. In our community, she is a woman who needs no introduction, but I'll give a short one. She is in her seventh term representing the New York 6th Congressional District, representing all of my hometown of Queens, New York. Go Queens! She is the first and only Asian American member of Congress from New York State, chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, and former vice chair of the DNC. Without her pushing for this commission to be created, we wouldn't be here today. Her bill, which was passed with unanimous bipartisan support and signed into law by President Biden in June 2022, is what started all of this, and we're so grateful. So thank you, Grace, for being with us at the very beginning and every step of the way. We would love to hear from you. Please give a warm welcome to Congresswoman Grace Meng.
Thanks so much, Joanne, for the kind introduction, and incredibly grateful for Crystal and to all of our commissioners for putting in so much heart and effort into this process. This is like a dream for our community, our collective community, all around the country, and you guys are the ones making it happen. I'm a congresswoman from Queens, New York, and when we first thought of this legislation, it had been sitting there for a few years, actually, before anyone was really interested. And eventually, during the pandemic, one of the few bright spots for our community was that it was signed into law by President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. I think now more than ever, as we celebrate the 250th birthday of our nation, it's more important than ever to include the contributions of our AA and HPI communities and how we have shaped America, how we have contributed to America, and reminding people that, our history is just as American as everyone else's. And this effort is important so that we can preserve that history in a museum, not just for our community, but for everyone to be welcome to and to learn. Some examples of the bravery, sacrifice, courage, and ingenuity that are found throughout our history. For example, Chinese American suffragist and economist Mabel Pinghua Lee, who advocated for the right to vote, even when she herself was denied because of the Chinese Exclusion Act. Or Princess Bernice Pauahi Bishop, who established a school for Native Hawaiian children at a time when Hawaiian language, culture, and traditions were endangered. And people like Kalpana Chawla, who became the first Indian American woman to fly to space in 1997. And so it's so exciting. I'm so grateful to everyone on this call and the ways that you are dedicating your time and your resources, and especially to those who have been willing to give your own resources or to help us secure resources. This is incredibly important. As you heard, the commission has to report its recommendation to us, to Congress, on how to actually create this national museum. And so I just want to say thank you to everyone who's on the call today, everyone who has taken time out of your busy schedules to participate in a Zoom or a listening session. We couldn't do it without you, and I'm just so grateful. So thank you. I'm in Washington, D.C., just to give you a quick, of course, I don't know how to do this. I was going to show you my view of the Capitol where I am. Right where the bill first passed. But anyway, thank you for all that you do.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Meng, for your remarks, for your leadership, and also for the view. Thank you. We'll now turn it back to Crystal.
Thank you, Congresswoman. You've just been such an incredible champion for our community, and we're really thrilled to have you. Thank you for joining us from the car during a busy day. I know you have votes and a lot of things going on, so thank you again.